our interview with the co-author of Dancing with Water, MJ Pangman, and here's a little taste of what's coming up in this interview.
When we're working with natural frequencies, nature works with harmonics that function within the golden ratio.
Oh, wow. I love this answer. I love it.
When you're working with these kinds of nested frequencies that come from nature, that are all nested in harmonics that come from the golden ratio,
Yeah.
you can not canceling it out.
In my logic, when you have water inside the earth moving through all these aquifers and all that stuff, it gets in contact with so many different natural materials. And then it comes out in a spring up in the mountains, and it goes down the creeks and the rivers, and it runs down the river, and it gets in contact with so many materials. And so, and if you think about that, water can contain so much information in just one little structure. It cannot be overloaded with information. It can hold all of it. It's not like it runs out of space for memory or something like that. It's just so yeah. I really resonate from my own logic. I resonate with totally with your answer. So I was putting all your stuff in my gravitational filter, and I love it. It's totally awesome. My water is really good. It's like this really loves me. It's so sweet and soft and loving and caring. It's amazing.
Hi guys, so I hope you're enjoying the Let the Magic Flow event so far. We are going deep down the rabbit hole with water, and what you're about to watch is an interview with MJ Pangman. MJ is the co-author of Dancing with Water along with Melanie Evans, a phenomenal book about water science, the essence of water, what is possible with water, which we highly recommend. MJ is a natural scientist and has been working with water for, since the 1990s, and her work, her passion, what she brings to the science of water is just fantastic. She's also the co-owner of dancingwithwater.com, a website which houses incredible water biohacking technology, which we feature a lot in the Let the Magic Flow Water Academy. And so we really wanted to have MJ on the show to share with you her passion, her story, her take on water, and I think it's quite fantastic. I hope you enjoy the interview. There are some really beautiful gems in here about water, what's possible with water, and why water is so important to us as humanity right now in this juncture of our evolution, which we're in right now. So dive in and enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ever podcast. I am now here with Dancing with Water, MJ Pangman. Yeah, and you co-authored Dancing with Water, a book on how to create structured water and basically what we will call epic water, the best water for your body, mind, and spirit. And actually, so basically, I've been shopping around on your website, and I've been buying basically most of your stuff there, and I'm finding it super interesting. I mean, this is the most. What I love about your product is that they're cheap and very powerful. So everybody can do this. So, it was about 2 months ago, I had a box coming in to Ecuador, and I started putting all these things into my gravitational filter, and my water just started blossoming and blowing up. And so I would love to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, what made you so interested in water? What made you start this journey on water?
Well, that's a great question, and I hope I can make it short. Really, honestly, about 10 or 15, well, it's more than that, years ago now, I was doing some writing in the field of alternative and complementary medicine. That had always fascinated me, and I encountered some of the work, some of the early work on structured water. There was a fellow working with Dr. Emoto from Japan, and they were making some concentrates, and I got involved doing some writing for some of this work. And as I started to take that water internally myself, my life began to change, and very, very slowly, one little piece at a time. I'm going to say that's when my awakening began, and we're always continuing to awaken, but one little piece at a time, things began to come into place. I noticed things come to the surface for me that needed to be released. as well as physically, I noticed changes in my energy level. In the beginning, there was some cleansing effects, but as a person who doesn't really respond a lot to supplements and that kind of thing, I never really noticed a lot. When I drank this water, I began to notice things that I'd never noticed taking any other kinds of things before. And so I just became fascinated, and you know how this journey goes. When you hit the thing you've come to do, you have to go down that path, and that's kind of what happened. And then, at the process, right up front, I would like to introduce Melanie Evans, who is the co-author of Dancing with Water, my good friend and business partner now. She and I have this wonderful interchange. She's an intuitive and has always been deeply connected with water. So when the two of us came together and decided we were going to walk this walk with water and begin this dance with water, our lives have changed, and it has blossomed into just an amazing experience.
I love the fact that you say dancing with water, because it really is a dance. It's like this cosmic dance. I feel it's expanding the consciousness. It's helping you to see the bigger picture, because water is, if there's any physical expression of unity consciousness, there will be water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Many have said that water is the mother and the matrix of everything. I mean, it's the foundation of what organic life is. That's, that's the basis of our organic existence here on this planet Earth. And so water is what we are. And to enhance water, one of the terms we use in Dancing with Water is that when you structure the water, we use this term over and over again, and we call this, what we're trying to create, you're calling it epic water, we call it full spectrum living water. Yeah. That's the same kind of terminology. We're wanting to return water to its original format and its original functions, which are the sustenance of organic life on this planet. So there you go. And it is a beautiful dance, because it's not that there's any one way to do any of this. The earth doesn't just use one way. The water in all parts of the world is just a little bit different. And so, one of the things we're encouraging people to do with Dancing with Water is to use their local water, if possible, to work with it, to get to know it on a conscious level. And that's one of the themes through Dancing with Water, is to connect each individual with the water in their local area, the water they're going to be drinking, and making this conscious connection is the beginning of the dance. And then it is a dance as each individual brings the elements to the water and incorporates them to, create this wonderful interchange between the water and each personal individual. So, you're on the same page with us, and we love what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And so what do you feel water's role is in regards to the awakening of humanity, the emergence of the new consciousness on Earth? What kind of role do you feel water has to play in this?
I think water is the ultimate role, and it will play that role to whatever extent each individual is ready and willing to step up to the game. And that's another reason why this is a dance. So we're all in different places on our journey. And so, one of the reasons we offer so many different ideas to people is because, number one, people all have different financial constraints right now, and they have different health constraints, and they have different spiritual awareness levels. And so everyone can step into the dance at whatever level and wherever they are. And that's what we want, is we want to provide something for everybody who at any place. And water, as we teach people that water is conscious, and we treat it as a conscious living part of this existence, then we begin to appreciate how water can help us in our awakening process. And that's the answer to your question.
Yeah.
Water's there, it's ready, it's willing. We say at the end of the book, water has been waiting.
Yeah.
And is asking the question, may I have this dance?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Beautiful. That's poetic. So, what is your typical advice to someone who lives in a big city where government water is there and it's polluted and toxic, and they just ask for advice, what to do? What's the best thing they can do for themselves regarding making the best water possible?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think, first of all, I would have to say that if they have access anywhere near them to a natural spring, that would be the first water that I would want to consume. Any local natural spring water that hasn't been compromised. Honestly, that's hard to get these days. That hasn't been compromised. Yeah. Many of our springs, have been. And if that's not available and all they have is municipal water, excuse me, then we recommend that they go to that facility and that they get a report on what's in the water and how they're treating the water. With that information, they know what's in the water and what are the problems. Because every local area's water is different and it's got different treatment methods, it's got different problems to overcome. Find out what the issues are with your local water, work with some local groups who understand how to deal with those issues, and bring in filtration methods, whether you can afford a whole home system, and many can't, that's okay, or like you mentioned at the beginning of our time together here, Joshua, you're using a gravity water system. Those are very simple, beautiful systems that mimic nature in the way water percolates down through layers of filtration media. Melanie and I, both in our own individual homes, also like these gravity filtration systems, which don't have to be expensive. And then, you may have to incorporate some additional filtration, depending on what's in your local water, but those systems can often be very good. And then they also offer you the opportunity, because the water percolates and then sits in a holding tank, you can put a number of things in that holding tank. So as your water sits, it's picking up the energetics of whatever it is that you're placing there. And so it's very versatile and it's very economical. Like I said, depending on whether or not you can afford whole home filtration or just a simple gravity, filter, that it's possible to work with your local water. And so, I suppose that's our suggestion.
That's what I love about your website. It's full of really good information, and I can see this. There is for everybody's budget. There's opportunities here. I mean, you can go and spend a lot of money, or you can do what I did. And I bought my budget is not crazy, so I bought a lot of small extra biohacks that I can use in the gravitational field. And I would love to talk to you a little bit about these items that I bought and that I'm using, because I'm so excited about it, because it really, before I was using shungite and ceramics only, and my water was already good. Like, it was already really good. And to be honest, I was like really doubting if it can get any better. And so it takes a lot to impress me. But when I started putting these items in, I was like, oh my God, there's something going on here. And this was cheap. It wasn't. So I really would love to talk a little bit about that. And the first one I would love to ask you about is the Anchi crystals. The Anchi crystals. What's going on there with these crystals?
That's a really lovely addition.
Yes.
To your water. Sorry, you cut out, and I may have interrupted you.
No, you didn't.
Okay, all right. The Anchi crystals were discovered by a couple of women who were actually looking for something to add to bath water in bath salts, and they started to sell this product that they had found, and people started to ask them, whoa, when I put this in my backwater, something more than minerals is happening, to me. Do these crystals structure water? And these women said, what does that mean? We've never heard of this. And they began doing some testing first in Europe and then in the US to substantiate and discovered that these crystals that they had stumbled upon came from an area on the planet where there's a very strong geosignature, a very strong fingerprint. The formation is millions of years old. And when we looked at it, Melanie and I, from a more intuitive perspective, we were picking up that some of the geo imprint, the fingerprint that these crystals hold, is ancient and carries some of the early codes for life on this planet.
Oh, wow.
So when you introduce those frequencies back to your water, not only does the water hold them very easily, but it does bring structure to the water and provides this imprint, this early, some of these early codes for life, blueprints on this planet. So that's what's going on there. There was some research that was actually done at Penn State on the Anchi crystals to show that they did bring structure to water within a very short period of time. And in talking with these women on several occasions, they have described experiences that I'm going to call the creation of a Meissner field, which is what happens in Ormus, and you understand the whole Ormus thing. So the Anchi crystals are actually creating so strong that they have the capacity to spin the elements in water, the Ormus elements that exist in water, into that Ormus state. So this is a very powerful mineral that so far has only been found in one place on Earth. So they're small crystals. The women who are working with this particular product are going the extra mile to be conscious stewards of these tools, to use everything that they mine, to carefully mine. And we love the energy that surrounds this particular product, and lots of people who buy them say, oh my goodness, yes, this energy, I want to hold it to my heart.
Yeah, including me. I'm super excited about them. Now that you say this with the Meissner field and the Ormus elements, I've heard now several people mentioning that there has been research done where they take distilled water, meaning there's nothing in it, and putting it out in the sun, and within 30 minutes or more, minerals are appearing in the water. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, what's going on there is that the water is being structured by the sunlight, and when water acquires this liquid crystalline matrix, you've already talked about in your previous seminars here about water, but when you create this liquid crystalline matrix for water, it excludes elements that are too large to be held in that matrix. Single individual minerals, ions, are incorporated in the matrix, and they actually participate in the crystalline format. But larger complexes of minerals that appear dissolved under normal circumstances, when the sun then begins to bring in the matrix and exclude those that are too large, they're going to start to float on the surface. You'll see little tiny particles. Sometimes they'll sink to the bottom. But that's a telltale sign that the water has become structured. And so that's what's going on. Now, I'm going to say that the sun is a very powerful form of energy to help bring structure to water, but we don't want to leave the water in the sun for too long. Yeah. And we go into that in the chapter on light in Dancing with Water, where we discuss why, you get tired when you spend too much time in the sun, and so does water. So the sunlight will structure the water, but then if the sunlight continues to beat on that water and the water isn't allowed to move, which it does naturally, then you're going to tire the water out and the energy is going to leave the water.
Yeah.
Something else we go into, and I don't know if you want to go into it in this interview, but there's actually two parts to the process of structuring. And one is movement and the energy that's brought into water. And the second part of the process, the completion of the process, is where water actually sits in stillness and in darkness.
Oh, wow.
Victor Schauberger, who is our water wizard, in his what he called ennoblement processes, said very clearly that the water had to be still and in darkness in order for the ennoblement of water to become full and complete, and for the water to mature. So, we're going to liken that to the fact that, water on the surface of the earth is exposed to the sun, but then water percolates deep into the earth, and that's where water is matured before it comes up again in a spring, in the darkness, and inside the earth, where it's exposed to the frequencies of the earth and matures. And the frequencies of the earth will structure water too. So I don't mean to throw too many things out to your audience all at once, but there are two parts to the process, and the second part is that stillness. So where the water is sitting in your gravity filter in stillness, exposed to those elements, you're completing the process to a certain degree. And I actually cover my gravity filter so that it's dark.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I'm gonna cover mine. I mean, it's already in a dark corner because intuitively I felt this already, but you're just confirming it now. But I had one more thought. I mean, I like to go and do as much as I can for the water, and I'm thinking, would it be a good idea to ground the water? I mean, so it's grounded in some way to the earth while it's sitting still?
Absolutely. And Josh, that's what you've done with the paramagnetic that you've added in the crystal tube.
That's why the paramagnetic. Okay. So the paramagnet. So I bought just for the listeners to understand. I bought basically some quartz crystal tubes with silica stoppers at the end, and it's full with paramagnetic elements that you can better describe what it is. And I put them in the water, and I have like 3 of those and 1 gravitational filter, and I'm definitely feeling something from it. So that's the grounding. Is that what you're saying?
That is grounding the water. You're bringing in the resonance of the earth. Yes, paramagnetics amplify the resonance of the earth.
Okay. And what else does it do? Why not magnets instead of paramagnetism?
Well, they're different.
Yeah.
You can use both. And here's the deal. Philip Callahan was a radio engineer in World War II. And so he was enamored with frequencies, and he was also very strongly connected to the natural world and insects. And he began to do some research following his interests after World War II. He wondered what was it that would attract insects for pollination purposes, for reproductive purposes, for insects come in and destroy plant material that is lower in quality. That's their job. What was it? And he discovered that all of this was about frequency. Of course, life is about frequency. Mm-hmm. But in his journey, he discovered the round towers in Ireland, and they were built with paramagnetic materials, things like granite and basalt are highly paramagnetic. Paramagnetic simply means that they're weakly attracted to a magnet. And he found that paramagnetics in those towers were amplifying the earth resonance, the Schumann resonance.
Ah.
So they were amplifying the Schumann resonance, and he believes, it's his theory, that that's why they were built, was to, to magnify the earth resonance, which would enhance the crop yield. It would also enhance the life force in the area. And so, that being his theory, he wrote a little book called Paramagnetism, and put forth some of his theories, whatever, but paramagnetism amplifies the frequencies of the earth. And so paramagnetic materials will amplify that frequency, essentially grounding water. And, so when you add paramagnetic to water, you're grounding the water, you're putting in the earth resonance. And that is one of the things that, in our opinion, completes this process of creating full spectrum living water. Full spectrum, you're bringing in the full spectrum. Those things that water needs in order to operate at its fullest.
I've been working with some permaculture principles in my garden here, and another friend right next door, he's doing the same thing, and he has this what is called a power tower, and he built this clay pot tower, and he filled it up with volcanic rock dust from the volcano here in Ecuador. And basically, the crops around is really happy, and he says that it's attracting almost elements into this whole area because of the paramagnetism. So when I started seeing the paramagnetic sand for sale on your website, I was just like, okay, there's something here going on. Like an alarm, a bell was ringing, like, ding ding, pay attention, Josh. But I really. I have not dived deep into the paramagnetism, but it's definitely also related to Ormus elements, from what I understand.
Definitely. There is a connection, which Philip makes in his book, between Ormus and paramagnetism. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to remember to drink some water.
There you go.
So what's the connection between paramagnetism and Ormus? Like, it's an attractor, or what? Or it creates it, or what is it?
Sorry, I've got something back in the back of my throat here, but the paramagnetism spins the Ormus elements into their high spin state, or keeps the Ormus elements activated. So everywhere there are Ormus elements, and we have a very good article on our website about Ormus. There are certain elements that, because of the electrons, the available electrons in the electron orbitals, I don't want to get too technical for your audience, but the electrons do something called Cooper pairing.
Okay.
And in essence, they spin themselves into this very high spin state. It makes the element itself lighter. It creates this Meissner field, which is an anti-magnetic field around the element, actually turning the element into a little orb of light. And the original research that was done on the Ormus elements by David Hudson way back in the early 1990s revealed that these elements actually change their physical qualities. So they may actually be different elements, even though they have the same number of protons and electrons surrounding their nucleus. They may actually be different elements. One day we may get to that point, but right now they're called, Ormus gold, Ormus silver, Ormus platinum, Ormus iridium. There are certain elements in the periodic table that lend themselves to this particular state. And when they're available in water, the paramagnetic influence will spin them into that state. And, we're early on the research on this right now, but it would appear that the brain is high in Ormus elements. Healthy tissues are higher in Ormus elements. and that they can, assist in this awakening process that you've been talking about.
Okay. And so on your website, while I started shopping on your website and buying all these things, I bumped into laminar crystal, and it was you said on the website that it's very good to combine laminar crystal with anchi crystals, and so could you talk a little bit about what the laminar crystals are all about?
Okay, so the laminar crystals have an interesting history as well. And one of the things we do in the book is we give some of the history for people, because I'm always fascinated by how these things come about.
Yes,
and
me too.
Many years ago, there was a railroad tunnel being dug. And in the process of that, they encountered some ancient artifacts, and crazy things happen in our world, but the tunnel was sealed up because nobody wanted these artifacts to come forward. But a couple of men went back and opened up the tunnel, and they found this material that appeared to be ceramic in nature. And when they did greater and greater testing on it, they found through connections with museums and ancient artifacts, they found that this was very similar to the material that was used in the casing of the pyramids, and also in other ancient artifacts that are found around the globe. So this material was ceramic. It was a fired clay that was high in silica, and also seemed to have a lot of mica in it. Mica is another layered laminar material, crystalline in nature, that you'll find in various places on this planet. It actually helps, we believe, in the conduction of energy on the planet through the ley lines that exist on this planet. So mica amplifies energy and is tuned to life force energy. So by putting a lot of mica into this ceramic material that was then fired, something unique was created then in the pyramids as far as gathering energy and then the ability to dispel it. And all of this is conjecture at this point in time. But when they started to mimic this, they found that putting this in water actually brought structure to water. So once again, here's a very simple way to bring structure to water, just by the addition of this product that has evolved now, and there are several different companies making their own version of this. We decided recently to incorporate gold leaf, edible gold leaf in our product, because the capstone of the pyramid was supposedly also covered in gold leaf. And gold is a mirror for infrared light frequencies. So infrared is the infrared frequencies that are close to the Schumann resonance that are, involved in bringing structure to water. And also the presence of gold helps to create a water that is very programmable. So that's what makes our product a little bit unique in the laminar crystal that we offer. So, that's laminar crystal, and that's kind of the history behind it. And we sell 3 little orbs about the size of a large marble. And the fact that there are 3 together creates an interesting resonance in the water. And, once again, a simple way to bring structure to water and to create water that's now very programmable. And we're talking about ways to increase our awareness, to raise our consciousness, and so water that's programmable is extremely useful for people who are interested in these kinds of things, because yes, we want water that we can say, hey, this is, these are things I'm working on now, and I'm appreciative of whatever support you, water, can provide for me in that way.
Absolutely.
Water is aware, and water that can be programmed is highly aware.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're doing here is we're increasing the awareness of we're allowing water to do what it wants to do for us by structure and adding the energetics to the water.
Yeah. Do you feel that you can do too much to your water, like to put too many of these items in? Like, for example, I also have prill beads and tourmaline, these small tourmaline balls also. Is it? I mean, I love my water, but I was wondering, am I putting too much stuff inside? Is any of them working against each other in some way?
Okay, great way to put your question. A lot of people ask, are they doing too much? Because in the world of frequency, you can cancel out frequencies, right? And so it is possible. However, and we mentioned this in the book, when we're working with natural frequencies, nature works with harmonics that function within the golden ratio.
Oh, wow. I love this answer. I love it.
When you're working with these kinds of nested frequencies that come from nature, that are all nested in harmonics that come from the golden ratio, you can not canceling it out. So as long as you're playing with natural things and working with the natural world, the answer is no. But, we've got a lot going on with water these days in technologies, and it gets to be a little bit too much. And from our perspective, when you start adding in too much man-made, then yes, you can. Follow your heart. That's the dance.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We are so much on the same page. It's incredible because, I've been exposed since my 20s. I was always into all this stuff. And in my 20s, I was very much into frequency devices, biofeedback machines, and et cetera, and all these frequency generators. And but as time went by, I just more and more just walked away from it, and I was like, nah. It just didn't feel right because it felt like it was just a little fragment of a totality of a whole. That it was a little compartmentalization of some frequency, and you can't describe nature with one frequency in just one little isolated case. It's such a, like, for example, our hearts it's such a huge array of frequencies that it can emit, and it's changing according to the time and day and who you are and how you feel and what you eat, what kind of water you drink, and who you hang out with, and it's such an organic process. And I don't think there's any inventions of any machines out there that can even get close to that. So I'm so much on the same page. It has to be an organic process. Water is alive. She wants to interact with living things, period. Like, it's that simple. And another thing is, I was hoping you would answer like this, because in my logic, when you have water inside the earth, moving through all these aquifers and all that stuff, it gets in contact with so many different natural materials. And then it comes out in a spring up in the mountains, and it goes down the creeks and the rivers, and it runs down the river, and it gets in contact with so many materials. And so, and if you think about that, water can contain so much information in just one little structure. It cannot be overloaded with information. It can hold all of it. It's not like it runs out of space for memory or something like that. It's just so yeah. I really resonate from my own logic. I resonate totally with your answer. So I was putting all your stuff in my gravitational filter, and I love it. It's totally awesome. My water is really good. It's like, this really loves me. It's so sweet and soft and loving and caring. It's amazing. It's just thank you so much for I just love your website. You have a lot of really cheap, affordable, but epic ways of accessing, boosting up, increasing the vibration, the frequency, and make this water totally love you. It's really great to see. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. We're having the time of our lives.
Yeah. And so I would like to try to step back to I heard you mention it in another interview, and when I heard it, I was just like, oh wow, we're really on the same page, because I heard you mention the music of the spheres with in an interview, and I just made a video like a month ago saying the music of the spheres, and now I just heard you say this on an interview with the music of the spheres. So what I'm seeing is like the whole solar system, every single planet has its own song, its own frequencies and song and resonance and how it sings. And so the whole solar system is like a musical instrument making its own music while it's flying through space. And what I'm seeing is the sun is changing a lot now. It's changing consciousness, and so we are changing on a level of DNA right now. And considering that the oceans are full of salt in the water, which is increasing conductivity like crazy, so the electric conductivity in the oceans are resonating with this frequency of this new song of the new song of the new Earth. And so intuitively, I feel this has a huge importance for the awakening of consciousness, how we are interacting with the water, because it's bringing the new frequencies into us, in our body and around us. Could you say a little bit about that? Or talk a little bit about it?
Well, you're absolutely right that things are changing in the universe.
Yes.
In this wonderful solar system, the sun is changing, we are changing, the earth is changing, and that's one of the beauties of what water does, is it's always releasing and upgrading the frequencies that it offers to organic life on this planet. So as the planets in our solar system step up, as the earth takes a giant step up with the sun and with the rest of the organic universe, we're on the verge of some amazing things. And water is here to help us stay in tune with those changes. Because every night, the water receives messages from the star community, the stellar world. Every day we get new information from the sun, we get new information from the earth itself, and that's all being incorporated into the natural water that we have on this planet. That's why I say going to get spring water is good, but not that we can't work with the water that we have to bring those frequencies in, and grounding the water and allowing it to be connected with the earth keeps us in tune with what's going on galactically.
Yeah. And I think it's people like you who are making people fall in love again with water. Their relationship with water is being rekindled through people like you, who are bringing this new, the new old. I always call it the new and old science coming out into the world. Did you know, by the way, that the ancient Egyptian name for priest and priestess actually means one who works with water?
I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of downloads from ancient Egypt. I was there and all that stuff, and in this life I'm so obsessed with water. And so when I was talking to Carmen Boltier, who made the pyramid code, and she said priest and priestess actually means one who works with water. So that says a little bit about how serious they were around water in ancient Egypt, with the pyramid power and water, etc. Have you ever played around with pyramids and water?
Well, we talk about geometry in the book and how shapes will attract, conduct, transfer energy, and bring in life force. So we talk about some shapes that are kind of obvious in that regard, and a pyramid is one of them. It actually draws in life force energy and then radiates it out. So, for that there are pyramids everywhere, and they can be used for good or for the opposite of that. as people choose, but they are attractors of life force energy.
Yeah.
The geometry that water loves for storage is that shape of the egg, which is why Victor Schauberger did so much work with the shape of the egg, and he discusses all the reasons for that, which we tried to bring out in the book too, and the reason why we created what we call the water cradle, which is a ceramic egg-shaped vessel that then we created an orgonite plate, which has the paramagnetics and all of the good qualities of orgonite, which also is an attractor of life force. So you've got life force being attracted to the shape of the egg. Well, that makes sense too. Seeds are shaped like eggs.
Yeah.
Eggs are always attracting life force because that's their purpose. They're involved in the creation of life. So that particular geometry is a very beautiful one for water. Cone shapes, like this particular shape, is very powerful for water, and it also attracts life force energy. So no wonder the Native Americans created their teepee in that shape. It attracts life force. When you look back and you can see how these shapes have been used anciently by the ancient cultures very wisely and intuitively. So there are, yes, some shapes and geometries, and all of those geometries are connected once again with golden ratio, fractal geometry.
Awesome. Well, I'm so grateful for this interview, and I feel I'm so much on the same page with you with so many things. I could ask you questions for the next 2 weeks, I think. But I have only one final question for you. What are you doing to your water?
That's a long process.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if the audience wants to hear the whole process, but I have my own well. Unfortunately, I live up in the mountains where I have fairly decent water. The water coming into my home goes through an in-home structuring method, and I use magnets. I use paramagnetics around the incoming water line. I use a vortexing device. I use frequency devices. The water comes into my home then, and I collect it in large 5-gallon bottles, which I then ozonate to make sure that the water is clean. And we use ozonators a lot in our processes because it's one way, without distilling or using reverse osmosis, which are very harsh processes for water, it's one way to provide a clean canvas to begin the process. Okay. So I use prills, I use tourmaline, I use shungite as my water sits in these rotating carboys, and then it goes into a gravity filter and sits with shungite and hydro crystals, which are crystals that have ancient water in them. And then, as I make my water, I do use a device called the Duet to spin this. I use one of the other devices that we created, which is a waterfall, where you could pour the water through stones of your choosing. Once again, each individual makes their own special water, and they can change it up every day. And then my water sits in our water cradle, at least overnight. I make different kinds of water for different purposes. Yeah. I'm drinking magnesium carbonate, bicarbonate water right now in between meals. And that I make in an earth resonance device, which is a device that's surrounded by paramagnetic sand, and it sits for several days to really mature. So I do different kinds of things with my water, and I'm drinking different kinds of water throughout the day, depending on what's going on with my life and my needs and my circumstances. So it really is a dance.
Yeah, but I would say with all the products you have on your website, there's plenty of room to be creative and play around. And so, for example, I just put my violet myron glass in my pyramid outside in the Ecuadorian sun with the anchi crystals inside. This is really,
that's beautiful.
yeah,
Because
it's
now that water is not going to get tired sitting in the sun because you put it in the maroon bottle. And that's something else I imagine you've discussed elsewhere, but the maroon bottle is a deep purple bottle that only allows in certain wavelengths and excludes the most of the visible wavelengths that actually degrade water and foods and storage. And so really, really nice idea to put the water in the maroon bottle with the anchi crystals. You see, there's another part of the dance, and it's all good.
oh, it's when you drink this water, it's electric. It's just it's amazing. And you know, when I was writing down on violet myron glass, when I was making the whole section of it, the presentation, I started realizing, wait a minute, the whole violet thing, that's the Saint Germain, the violet flame. And so I went down the rabbit hole on color therapy and what violet means. And it's just like, it's the highest frequency of light, visible light that we can see. So it's actually the gateway into higher consciousness when we start moving into other worlds that is outside of our visible spectrum. And so it's a very powerful color, and this let me put it this way: the first month or two that I started using violet myron glass, I was kind of like, nah, yeah, like it was good, but I wasn't really that impressed. But slowly it started creeping up on me, and I was just like, wait a minute, there's something going on here, and I started liking it more and more and more and more, and now I'm just this is one of my favorite biohacks, is to put this in the pyramid in the sun, and then I'm putting shungite or anchi crystals or some other, you know, whatever I figure out. And I also have a lot of other crystals. We have lots of crystals over here that I'm just putting in and trying the different properties of it. Also a little pinch of salt. By the way, this I just want to mention this. Your Korean bamboo salt. I am very impressed with that. I put it under my tongue twice per day, and I literally can feel the energy just kick in and my brain switching on. It's amazing. I mean, I really love this stuff. It feels like it's full of almost elements.
It is. It is rich in enormous elements because of the process that it goes through, and people can read about that, you know, anywhere on the, well, maybe the most complete article maybe on our website, dancingwithwater.com, about the bamboo salt. I remember when I connected with it for the first time at a trade show, the same thing happened to me. As I put a large chunk of this that was given to me by the woman there, and under my tongue, and I went, oh my goodness,
yeah,
this is amazing stuff. It doesn't appeal to everyone because very high sulfur content, but it's an extremely therapeutic salt developed by the master Insan, who was a Chinese healer, and in our recent time. And then he was working with an ancient process that monks developed thousands of years ago. Anyway, it is a very beautiful salt, and it is very high performance, and everyone will be either connected to it or not, as wherever they are in their journey.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, it's not just salt. There's something else going on here.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope we can do this again another time, and go more deep and down the rabbit hole with water, and just recreate and hopefully spread the passion and excitement and love around water.
Thank you for doing what you're doing, Joshua. Your work is amazing.
Thank you so much, and so is yours. It's amazing. Okay, thank you so much. See you next time.
So there you have it. That's the interview with MJ. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it inspiring. As usual, it's a pleasure to share this stuff with you. And we have so much more that we want to get out there about water. But the Let the Magic Flow event is actually coming to a close. And so we really hope that we can get it out there in time. As usual, everything is below. If you'd like to sign up, it's down below this video. And if you'd like to learn more about MJ and her work, we've posted links right below the video, right underneath the screen. You're going to see a link to her website and her work, so check it out there. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.